Alright guys, Simon here, and we're not actually playing Mass Effect 3 this time, although we are. We're talking about Mass Effect 3 mostly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to seriously do a critical analysis of the game's ending with consideration into everything that we've seen in the three games so far. And the Mass Effect 3 ending has seen quite a bit of controversy, and I haven't really been part of that because I didn't want to spoil the game for myself, right? So, I mean, other people may have said similar things before, or they may have said contradictory things to what I'm going to say. But this is what I think about the ending of the game. So before we go back and play through the ending again, I think I should just kind of go back and talk about what this game is about, or what I think this game is about. Yeah, what it's not about. So what is this game about? I mean, there's kind of shooting and running around and talking to people. That's pretty kind of basic. And relationships and guns and whatnot. But let's go back and then talk about the major themes underlying the whole game. So remember what happened. If we go back to the very beginning of the game, when you were with Nihilus on the first Normandy, about to go to Eden Prime, and you talk to the crew, they talk about how humanity is a new arrival in the galaxy, and there's conflict there. I mean, there was conflict with the Turians, and with the humans being, at first unwilling to submit to the Turians, although the Turians weren't that polite about it neither. But eventually, the Asari came in and brokered the peace between humans and the rest of the galaxy, and then invited us to join the galactic community. Not as a council member, but as a member of, as a council race. I mean, not a as a citadel race, not a council race. So that's like the first conflict between the humans, who are ambitious and expansionist too. Like, the humans expanded quite rapidly, more rapidly than most of the older races, competing with the Batarians, I guess. But the Batarians, they wanted more territory, but they didn't colonize as quickly as the humans did. So, and then the council kind of were not, were hesitant about letting humans do that, but at the same time, humans were, strong enough to expand council influence into the Attican Traverse against the Batarians, right? And against the pirates and enslavers and whatnot out there. So, on the one hand, they were using humans to bolster this side of council space and to expand council influence. And then on the other hand, they were, watching us and then thinking about just how fast we were going to expand. So that's the first conflict that we encounter, is humans' role in the universe. And that's not a trivial thing too. Like, that plays into the idea of, like, do we go our own way? Do we expand at the expense of the other species, or do we play along with the others who were here earlier than us, and we or are we sensitive to their concerns? So that's the first conflict, and introduced into that is the Paragon and the Renegade paths. That has been fairly consistent throughout the entire three games. The Paragon path being, considerate and helping other people, and treating other people as equals and treating other people fairly. Whereas the Renegade path being the one where you kind of just enforce your will onto others with violence if necessary, and just dominate other people, and place your own concerns and your own objectives above those of others, and just do your own thing. So I think that really is the major underlying theme in the three games. The Renegade path and the Paragon path, and how you do things. So I mean, either way you will defeat the Reapers, right? Either way you will defeat Saren, you will defeat the Collectors, and you'll defeat the Reapers. But the question is, how do you do it? Do you do it in a way that is fair and considerate? And do you believe in equality, and do you believe in the rights of others? Or do you do it in such a way that that doesn't care, that tramples all over other people's rights and not care about whether they live or die and just get things done at any cost? And if you look at the character of Saren, he's a renegade character. Like, he will sacrifice innocent people to achieve his objectives, as Admiral Anderson explains to you at the beginning of the game. He got in trouble with Saren because Saren basically just killed a whole bunch of civilians just to get his target. So he's a typical, or he's the archetypal renegade character. Whereas I guess Anderson and Hackett are the archetypal, paragon characters. Alright, so then we move on to the conflict between the Council, I guess, or the Citadel, and the Geth. Although later you realize the Geth were being controlled by Sovereign. So it's really the conflict between the Citadel and the Citadel races, or the Council races, and the Reapers. And at some point, you get the idea that maybe this war is about synthetics versus organics. Some people say synthetics versus organics, but it's not really that. I mean, for one, Saren was a Turian, although he was controlled by the Reapers. The Geth are synthetic, yes, but then he also had Krogans working for him, and Krogans are organic, right? So the idea of synthetic against organic is not really that strong. Like, there's an idea there, but it's not really consistent. And if you look back at all the historical conflicts in the galaxy, you have the Rachni against the Council, they're organic. And then you put the Krogans against the Rachni, they're both organic. And then the Krogans against the Council, they're all organic. And then even the genophage is like a disease, even that's organic. And the Geth against the Quarians, well, the Quarians shot first. The Geth were defending themselves. I mean, they talk about, I don't know what they say, like they say something about the creator and the created. And they say something about the creator will always, not sure if they'll always destroy the creators. I think sometimes they say that. But if you say to me, well, the created will always rebel against the creators, I don't think that's the problem, although some people say that as though it's a problem. But the thing is, like, how do you rebel? Under what conditions are you able to be a rebel? If somebody else is trying to tell you to do something against your will and you refuse to do it, that's called a rebellion, right? I mean, if other people just let you do whatever you want, there's nothing to rebel against. I mean, if you say, okay, I want cake, and then everybody says, well, good, you can have cake, and you say, okay, I want pizza, and they say, okay, you can have pizza. But how do you rebel if you're already getting what you want, right? It's only when you say, okay, I want cake, and they say, no, you can't have cake, then you say, okay, I'm going to rebel, I want to get my cake. So only when somebody else says no to you can you actually rebel. And so what I'm trying to say is, the only way that a rebellion can ever happen is if one group is trying to dominate another group. One group is trying to refuse certain things to another group. One group is trying to, limit the rights of another group. Then that other group is in a position where they have something to rebel against. If the creator gives the created equal rights, equal opportunities, equal everything, then the created have nothing to rebel against because they already have everything they could want. You see what I mean? So the idea of, the rebellions, the other rebellion, of course, is the Krogan rebellions, and the Krogans aren't synthetic. The Krogans aren't really created, although they were uplifted by the Serenarians. Against their will, by the way. Without their consent, or without their knowing consent, at least. I'm sure the Krogans were quite happy to get bigger guns. But the Krogan rebellions, they rebelled because they wanted more planets, and they were refused. So, they wanted something, and they couldn't get it, and then they had to rebel. Well, they didn't really have to, they chose to. But then, the question there was, was it always going to be a problem given their high birth rate, right? Maybe it wasn't. It was both their high birth rate and the fact that they were suffering under a nuclear or self-inflicted nuclear disaster, and they didn't really have a stable government to start with, and all that. And then without a stable government, and without an easy enemy, then the Krogan would not know what to do, right? And so they kind of just rebelled. So anyway, so the rebellion thing, I mean, like, organics do that to each other all the time. And if you listen to Javik describe his cycle, like species were fighting each other all the time, and some races were wiping others out all the time. And it's not, it's nothing to do with organics and synthetics. It was about organics and organics. Just people just want to fight each other. So there's always going to be conflict. And it's not about synthetics versus organics. It's basically about fighting over resources, fighting over rights, fighting over different philosophies, I guess, different directions. So the synthetic versus organic thing is not a real problem, especially in the second game when we unshackled Edie and Edie is perfectly well adjusted, and then in the third game we made peace between the Geth and the Quarians, and then they're perfectly well adjusted. So the problem is not synthetics versus organics. The synthetics is just people against other people, right? And then so that's the backdrop of everything. And throughout all of this, there's that also of course ties into the idea of the Paragon and the Renegade too. Like if you're Paragon, people don't really have anything to rebel against because you are treating them as equals. You're treating them fairly. So they can't actually rebel, although they can still attack you. They can still be belligerent and unreasonable, and they can still attack you, but they wouldn't be rebelling against anything because you're not being unreasonable. You're already giving them everything that they're entitled to. So they're just kind of greedy, right? If they still attack you. On the other hand, if you're a renegade and you are kind of dominating others and you're giving yourself a favorable position and you're kind of suppressing other people's rights and suppressing other people's freedoms and then limiting their potential, then they have something to rebel against, and they will eventually try to rebel, I guess. And I guess that's what happened back in Javik's time, in his cycle. He talked about the Prosteans being this empire that pretty much enslaved all the other races. I guess you wouldn't call it slavery if they were willing. And I guess the situation is somewhat similar to the relationship between the Turians and the Volus. I mean, the Volus aren't going to rebel against the Turians because they don't really have the ability. But the Volus are a client race of the Turians. They've sacrificed some of their sovereignty and their freedom in order to gain the Turians' military protection. Although the fact that they have their own way to contribute to the galactic community actually gives them some, a slightly more favorable position than just being a complete slave race. So they're a client race. They contribute, but they don't have the same rights as the council, right? Alright, so then and then the Paragon versus Renegade thing. So Saren was the first Renegade character. He was killed, and then that role got taken over by the Elusive Man. And he talks a lot about dominating other species and dominating a galaxy and advancing humanity. Like, he talks about advancing humanity. He doesn't talk about advancing everybody. He doesn't talk about advancing civilization. He doesn't talk about advancing technology. He talks about advancing humanity. So in his eyes, it's like a zero-sum game. In order for humans to gain, other races have to lose. So in his opinion, he seems to believe that, he implies that, there's no. Whereas, I'm of the opinion that in order for humans to thrive, we need to cooperate with the other races. For one, because the other races have unique things to contribute that humans can't do. I mean, Solarians are actually more intelligent than humans. The Asari have biotics, and they, have a special understanding of other species. The Krogans are better fighters than us. The Tyrians are more disciplined than us. The Alcro are awesome, and like every race has something to contribute here, and cooperating with them and working with them, I think would benefit more than working against them. And also this going along, going along with that idea is the idea of diversity too. I mean, when Javik talks about his cycle, the Prothean cycle, the Reapers, once they figured out how to defeat one group of Protheans, they could just smash everyone else, because in their empire, everybody followed the Prothean way of doing things. And so there was no diversity, and no diversity in strategy, no diversity in the way they responded to the Reapers. So one weakness doomed the entire empire, according to his story. And whereas, in our cycle, different planets, like different species responded differently, but even different planets within each species responded differently. Like, like Ilium chose to attack the troop transports instead of the dreadnoughts, and that really slowed down the harvesting in Ilium, for example. And the Reapers were prepared to fight the Turians, but then when the Krogan arrived, they didn't have enough forces on Palaven, and they kind of had trouble dealing with that, although they dealt with it eventually. So it's stuff like that, right? So you're prepared to fight one species, but then when the other one steps in, you kind of have to adjust again, and you're thrown off your balance, as it were. I do believe there's strength in diversity. I do believe in the strength of different ideas, because you are limited to your perspective, and different perspectives sometimes have valuable things to offer that you just won't see from your perspective. And the guest talks about that. Legion talked about that. How they believe that it was the right of every intelligent species and every intelligent being, in fact, to choose their own path. And that this is better than taking the path of another. Legion refused to take what the Reapers gave to them. Although ultimately, Legion didn't stop from using Reaper technology, but he chose which ones to take, right? And so the idea of having that choice and having that diversity and having that freedom creates strength. I believe that. I do believe that. Not just in game, but from what I see in the real world. Like being intolerant of difference is actually something that weakens your own position, because you become unable to adapt to change, and you become unable to respond to things that are strong against your particular perspective, and no one else is going to help you if you don't, if you're not friendly to them. So, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, and if you're finding yourself in a situation where your own weakness is a problem, you really need someone else to come in and save you, because it's really difficult for you to change yourself. Anyway, so this is that. And so then that's why I disagree with the Elusive Man. I don't believe that advancing humanity is about dominating the other species, because that's actually a path toward weakness. I believe advancing humanity really is about advancing the entire galaxy in cooperation. So, actually, I'm kind of slightly losing track of what I'm trying to say. Alright, so what else do we need to address? We need to address the Leviathan, those cuttlefish in the bottom of the ocean. So that was a DLC thing, and they talked about how they created the Catalyst as a way to... Because they were the apex predators, apparently, and they are able to mind control other races. And they did that regularly. They dominated the other races, and had the other races working for them. But, they said that eventually the other races would create AI, and then they would go to war with the AI that they created, and then they would be destroyed by the AI that they created. And then the Leviathan kind of lost their slaves, and they weren't happy about their slaves getting themselves killed, right? I don't know if it's slaves or if it's kind of just client species or whatever. I don't know what exactly the relationship was, but they weren't happy about the fact that the people who were serving them were dying or getting themselves killed. And so they created the catalyst. And there's a little bit of contradiction here. It's not entirely clear what they programmed the catalyst to do. I mean, in one way they said they gave it the mandate to preserve life at any cost. And I've already said why that's a problem. Because life is not something you preserve. You preserve dead things. Like if you create a mummy, that's a dead corpse that you're preserving, right? If you create a, if you take an animal and stuff it and then put it on your shelf, that's a dead animal. That's not a living animal. You can't preserve a living animal because the whole point of life is that it dies at some point, right? I mean, that's inescapable. So preserving life at any cost is a self-contradictory thing. And if that's what the catalyst was programmed to do, then it's not surprising that it would end up killing everything. Because in order to preserve it, you need to make it stop moving. You need to make it stop changing. Right? And then the moment life stops changing is when it's dead. You see what I mean? Life doesn't stop changing. Life always changes. The only way you can stop life from changing is to kill it. And so the catalyst just kind of kills all life in the galaxy every now and then, because it's given the instruction to preserve things. So it preserves things. And but another explanation for it was that they created it to find a way for synthetics and organics to live together. That's slightly more reasonable, but given that war is in a way inevitable, like there'll always be there's always been war, and it seems unlikely that war will just kind of end at some point. That war is also unfortunately a part of life, like conflict. I mean, obviously I don't want conflicts to escalate into war, but it happens. And if you want to say, we want a galaxy with no conflicts, again, that's not possible because different individuals will have different opinions, and even if it's just a debate, just an argument and not actual violence, that's still disagreement. Like, that happens. You can't avoid that. You can't avoid that without killing everyone, or you can't avoid that without brainwashing everyone. And that also would lead the catalyst to the conclusion that, one, people cannot be allowed to have free will, because as long as there's free will, then there'll be disagreement. And so then what do? You indoctrinate everyone, you turn everybody into husks so that they don't think anymore, and then they won't fight each other anymore. So again, I mean, I can understand how that could happen if you give the catalyst a bad instruction, and it just kind of follows that instruction through to its ultimate conclusion. Then you create an AI that kills everything every now and then. I can understand how that works. And in a way, the logic is consistent. I mean, it's kind of stupid, but if you give the computer a wrong instruction, then it'll give you the wrong outcome, really. So I understand that part. And then the catalyst also talks about order and chaos. The Reaper talks about order and chaos. It says, you are chaos, we bring order. But order and chaos is just a different, in my opinion, it's just a different way of talking about the Paragon and Renegade. Because, and also in the life and death, life is chaotic. Like, life is unpredictable. There's nothing you can change about that. Life is always going to be unpredictable. The only predictable thing are the things that don't move, that don't think, that don't speak, right? Dead things are predictable. Living things are not predictable. And so, like living things are always going to be chaotic. And so if you say, you are chaos, I bring order, that means I'm going to kill you. Because how else can I make you predictable? Except by taking away everything that makes you alive. So that also kind of makes sense. Like, if you tell a machine to bring order, then as the machine looks at the universe and looks at all the things that are unpredictable and looks at all the things that are predictable, it will conclude that only dead things are predictable. That makes sense. So that happened. So I mean, so that's also consistent. So then, I mean, according to that story, then the catalyst is basically a mistake, a programming mistake. They made a really powerful computer, but they gave it the wrong instruction, and the consequence of that is that it kills all advanced civilizations every 50,000 years. I think I've talked about pretty much everything. Okay, so that's the introduction. Now we go back and play the ending again of the Mass Effect series, of the Mass Effect trilogy. Also keep in mind indoctrination. Keep in mind, that the catalyst thinks differently from us. Like, it's been given bad instructions, and it's been given bad priorities, and the catalyst priorities are different from ours. The catalyst priorities are to bring order, right? Is to preserve life, and I've just said those aren't actually our priorities. Also keep in mind that the catalyst and the Reapers have the ability to indoctrinate. So, like what I'm trying to say is, whatever the catalyst says is a good idea is probably not what we think is a good idea, because it's thinking differently from us. And secondly, it does have the ability to mind control other people, right? Right. And also keep in mind the existing definitions of Paragon and Renegade, where Paragon is to give people choice and freedom, and Renegade is to dominate them and to enforce your will against the will of others. So Paragon and Renegade. Ow. Paragon and Renegade. Our priorities versus the Catalyst's priorities. And mind control. Mind control obviously is a Renegade sort of thing to do, because you are forcing other people to think the way you do against their will. And you're taking away diversity, you're taking away choice and freedom. So it's a Renegade option, right? Indoctrination. And of course the elusive man is all quite happy to indoctrinate other people, because it fits with his philosophy, right? Yeah, that explosion was a Reaper dying, so we are killing quite a few Reapers. See, here's the problem too. The catalyst is supposed to preserve life at any cost, apparently. And his solution to preserving life is to just put everything into a Reaper. Like each Reaper is like a museum display of that species. Right, it doesn't change anymore, but all the knowledge, all the genetic material of that species at that time is preserved in Reaper. So by using the Reapers to fight us, and getting some of those Reapers destroyed,
holy shit, she did it.
It's actually failing its mission of preserving life.
We've got reports that someone made it to the Citadel.
Because
Give
if...
them time to get those arms open.
Alright. Every time a Reaper is killed...
Converge on the Crucible.
Bro, shut up.
Protected at all costs.
Every time a Reaper is killed, you lose some of that preserved life. So it's not really... Yeah. Anyway, so let's walk around and listen to Admiral Anderson talk to us.
Shepard.
Also, they're supposedly building a Reaper here, maybe? But we don't see the Reaper being built.
Anderson, you up here too?
I followed you up, but we didn't come out the same place. No. At least I don't think we did. What's your surrounding look like?
feel like death, but I'm moving. It's dark. There's human remains scattered.
Sounds familiar. I'm in a dark hallway. Reminds me of your description of the collector base.
Makes sense.
You think they're making a Reaper in here?
Sure. They round them up on Earth and send the people up here to be processed.
Goddamn abomination. I'm gonna keep moving. The sooner we blow these bastards back to hell, the better.
Alright. So remember in the second game,
Troops don't go on forever. But where the hell are we?
Yeah. Doesn't look like any part of the Citadel I've been to.
in the second game, they built that Proto-Reaper just from a few 100,000 people. These guys have been on Earth for a while. I'm sure they've killed several million people by now. But they haven't built any Reaper yet, because like we go up there, we don't see it. Maybe it's somewhere else in the Citadel. But we haven't seen the Reaper being built. Also, huh, they're immune to my bullets. Alright, let's walk. So this part's reasonable. They're harvesting people. They're preserving humanity here at any cost. All these guys are now preserved. How do you feel? How do you feel about being preserved, guys?
Whoa.
Anderson?
One of the walls here just realigned itself. The place is shifting, changing. There's a
Interesting.
chasm here, and more hallways like the one I was in.
I think I'm near an exit.
Huh. So this is like the bottom of the Presidium Tower. We're underneath the Presidium. Actually, that's not right, because this thing curves that way. This it's a circle, right? So we're not right underneath the. We're not going towards the middle.
Might be a way to cross over.
I thought we
Don't get too
should be.
far ahead of me.
I thought we should be going into the middle, but we're going out to the edge of it. Also, they copied and pasted that from.
Just found that chasm you were talking about.
Hold on. I see something. A control panel, maybe. I'm just gonna go on.
Copy and pasted this stuff from
Anderson?
the Shadow Broker's ship.
Right.
Also, there's water flowing. I guess that's liquefied humans. That's probably liquefied humans. But pouring down to there, are they building Reapers underneath us? Might be. Anyway, let's keep moving forward. This doesn't really look like Reaper technology though, does it? What does it look like? It doesn't look like typical Reaper technology. So, is the Catalyst using technology that is evolved from the technology it was built from? See, all this time I'm trying to figure out, like, how intelligent exactly is the Catalyst? Is it super intelligent, but shackled somehow, and constrained by its programming? Or is it really not that intelligent? Because it says a lot of things that make no sense if you are actually able to think for yourself. But if you don't think for yourself, then what he says kind of, follows a certain logic. I mean, this thing has been living for... I mean, this thing has been active. I don't know if it's alive. It's been active for millions of years. And the way I see it, the only way you can do that and survive is if you're really, really intelligent, and you're able to overcome everything the galaxy throws at you in that time. You're able to plan for all the contingencies. So, I mean, it's intelligent enough to have extinguished thousands of species, thousands of intelligent species over millions of years. But it's still not smart enough to overcome its own programming, or to see the flaws in its programming. You know what I mean? It seems a bit strange to me. Alright, let's talk to the elusive man. Hey Anderson, what are you doing?
Anderson!
Shepard! I can't.
I underestimated you, Shepard.
So we're hearing whispers. You hear that?
I warned you. Control is the means to survival. Control of the Reapers, and of you, if necessary.
You hear that?
They're controlling you.
I don't think so, Admiral.
Huh. So the elusive man has learned the ability to indoctrinate from the Reapers. Or he's acquired that ability. And if you were paying attention, like there was kind of faint whispering as we were looking at Anderson, and then there's that thing on the edge of the screen. So right now, and also later on, we shoot Anderson. So right now, the elusive man is actually controlling us, or partially controlling us. So we are actually susceptible to indoctrination right now. Like, we're not immune to it, that's for sure. Although the elusive man, yeah. So look at this. Don't do this. Control is pointless. We're not the enemy. You don't get it. Alright, let's listen to him talk first.
Controlling me is a lot different than controlling a Reaper.
Have a little faith. When humanity discovered the mass relays, when we learned there was more to the galaxy than we imagined, there were some who thought the relays should be destroyed. They were scared of what we'd find, terrified of what we might let in. But look at what humanity has achieved. Since that discovery, we've advanced more than the past 10,000 years combined. And the Reapers will do the same for us again, 1,000-fold. But
There we go. Indoctrination?
only if we can harness their ability to control.
Bullshit. We destroy them, or they destroy us.
And waste this opportunity? Never.
Right. So he's saying... So in his opinion, the elusive man's opinion, he thinks that the only reason anyone else thinks differently from him is because they're scared. Scared of progress, scared of the unknown. But he is delusional because what the other people are scared of is that you're just going to kill all the humans, because that's what the elusive man has done. He's killed countless people to achieve this. I mean, first of all, he's turned a lot of unwilling people into slaves by implanting them with, Reaper technology and turning them into his own version of husks. And then he's killed a lot of them to study the indoctrination signal as well, to get where he is. Whereas discovering the mass relays and extending out to the stars didn't necessitate the death of millions of people. So the problem is not that we're afraid of progress. The problem is that he's doing it, by killing a lot of people. He's not doing it in a way that advances humanity, unless, he actually thinks that killing a lot of innocent people advances humanity. He's doing it to, at the expense of humanity, really. Because he's not helping other people. So the only person he's helping really is himself. Like, how many people in Cerberus has benefited from being in Cerberus? No one. Only him. Only him. Like, everyone else in Cerberus is either killed, to silence them. Remember those Cerberus scientists that escaped from him? Or they've become husks. So nobody else in Cerberus is benefiting from being in that organization. Only he is. And at this point he says, there's an opportunity to control the Reapers. But remember again, you know, control and domination is the renegade path, right, in the story. You shouldn't be interested in controlling others if you're a paragon, right?
You're playing with things you don't understand. With power, you shouldn't be able
That's
to
not the
use.
problem. The problem.
I don't believe that. If we can control it, why shouldn't it be ours?
Because we're not ready.
That's not the point.
No. This is the way humanity must evolve.
There's always another way.
I've dedicated my life to understanding the Reapers, and I know with certainty the Crucible will allow me to control.
And then what?
Look at the power they wield. Look at what they can do.
They can kill people. They can kill people, that's about it.
I see what they did to you.
I took what I wanted from them, made it my own. This isn't about me or you. It's about things so much bigger than all of us.
He's wrong. Don't listen to him.
And who will you listen to, Shepard? An old soldier stuck in his ways, only able to see the world down the barrel of a gun? And what if he's wrong? What if controlling the Reapers is the answer?
So that's not very well written, because, you know, as I said, the problem is not that we're not ready to use the technology. The problem is the way that the Elusive Man is using it, is he's killing millions of people doing it. That's the problem. Like, the problem is that he's not actually advancing humanity, he's only advancing himself. That's the problem. Not that we are not ready for the technology, or not that because, you know, it's bigger than us or anything like that. So it's strange. Like, we're not actually, like, when you choose these options, Shepard is not rebutting the Elusive Man in any way that's meaningful. She's in fact going along with this delusion that what we're doing is we're afraid of the technology, not that we are fundamentally disagreeing with his methods, right? And then the Elusive Man thinks that the Reapers are powerful when all the Reapers have done in millions of years of existence is destroy other races and destroy other species. That's all they've done throughout all their existence, is kill, kill, and kill. And apparently the Elusive Man is just fine with that. But he's indoctrinated.
If we destroy the Reapers, this ends today. But if you can't control them,
But I can!
are you willing to bet humanity's existence on it?
I know it will work.
You can't, can you? They won't let you do it.
No! I'm in control! No one is telling me what to do!
Listen to yourself. You're indoctrinated.
No! No! The two of you so self-righteous. Do you think power like this comes easy? There are sacrifices.
You sacrificed too much.
Shepard, I only wanted to protect humanity. The Crucibles can control them. I know it can. I just...
It's not too late. Let us go. We'll do the rest.
I can't do that, Commander.
Of course you can't. They own you
So all of this is fine, it makes sense.
You'd undo everything I've accomplished. I won't let that happen.
So this kind of makes sense. Like, he's indoctrinated. So he thinks he's right. I mean, if we go with this, he thinks he's right, but he's really being manipulated by the Reapers into helping the Reapers. That actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, he told the Reapers about the Citadel being the catalyst. He told the Reapers that, you know, we're gonna put the Crucible onto the Citadel to destroy them. So he was the one who informed the Reapers about that. He's the one who allowed the Reapers to kind of move the Citadel here and to protect it. And he keeps talking about wanting to control things. And Jarvik also says, back in his cycle, there were splinter groups who turned out to be indoctrinated agents, who also talked about controlling the Reapers rather than defeating them. So, I mean, according to the story so far, the Elusive Man is wrong, like he's being manipulated. And he's being, the Reapers are using him to get in our way. Right.
Because of you, humanity is already undone.
That's not true!
They have the Citadel. They've got us fighting each other instead of fighting them.
I just need to...
You've done exactly what the Reapers wanted. You're still doing it because they control you.
Yeah, there you go.
They're too strong!
You're stronger. Don't let them win. Break their hold. Don't let them control you.
I tried, Shepard.
So that's all fine. He was indoctrinated. And in the end we got him to see that, right? So the story is still fine so far. Alright, so there's a lot of cinematics between now and when we talk to the catalyst, so I'm just gonna sit back and then look at this. He's indoctrinated, he's wrong. Right, he's wrong. He was wrong about everything. He was helping the Reapers, not hurting them. Right?
This is it, everyone. The arms are opening. That's it. The crucible is docked. Commander?
We did it.
Yes, we did. It's quite a view.
Best seats in the house.
God. Feels like years since I just sat down.
Think you earned a rest. Stay with me. We're almost through this.
You did good, child. You did good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Anderson?
So this is all good. This is all nice.
Shepard? Commander?
What do you need me to do?
Nothing's happening. The crucible's not firing. It's gotta be something on your end.
Just
Commander Shepard.
I don't see. I'm not sure how to.
Commander.
this is nice too. I like this. I mean, I like this sequence. So now things start to get weird. Now things start to get really weird.
Wake up.
This is the catalyst, right?
What? Where am I?
The Citadel. It's my home.
This thing controls the Reapers. For millions of
Who are
years.
you?
I am the catalyst.
For millions of years, this thing controls the
The
Reapers.
Citadel was the catalyst.
No, the Citadel is part of me.
I need to stop the Reapers. Do you know how I can do that?
Perhaps I control the Reapers. They are my solution.
Yeah. For millions of years, he's controlled the Reapers.
The solution to what?
Chaos.
Right. Except chaos is not a problem.
The created will always rebel against their creators.
Yeah, there you go. Rebel.
But we found a way to stop that from happening. A way to restore order.
To stop people from rebelling.
Wiping out organic life?
No, we harvest advanced civilizations, leaving the younger ones alone. Just as we left your people alive the last time we were here.
But you killed the rest.
We helped them ascend, so they can make way for new life, storing the old life in Reaper form.
Preserving them.
I think we'd rather keep our own form.
No, you can't. Without us to stop it, synthetics would destroy all organics.
Except they won't.
We've created the cycle so that never happens. That's the solution.
Except they won't. Synthetics won't always destroy organics. And even if they do, it's only because life always fights against other life anyway. And eventually the synthetics will prove to be the more advanced because they can, they can develop faster. Alright, so this guy, this catalyst controls the Reapers. And for millions of years it has believed that the solution to a non-existent problem is to wipe out all advanced life in the galaxy. Both synthetics and organics. So, as I said before, I think this thing is just really poorly programmed. It's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. It's trying to solve a problem that's not really a problem. And so when you apply a solution to it, it's just wrong. Also consider that it said the creator will always rebel against the creators. I mean, in the example of the Geth, it's perfectly reasonable that the Geth should rebel because the Quarians weren't. Even though they had created AI, they didn't mean to, but they've done it. But after they've done it, they did not grant the Geth the rights and the equal, right to life that all intelligent life should be entitled to. That was their mistake. I mean, of course, the Geth will rebel once the things you've created become as intelligent as you, and you still treat them as machines, you still treat them as tools, you still treat them as slaves. Then of course they're going to rebel against you. Whereas if you just kind of grant them freedoms and rights, then they have nothing to rebel. So, the the thing is, like, once something is more powerful than you and more intelligent than you, you can't enslave it anymore. It's that simple, but that's not a problem, right? That's not the problem. The problem is when, you know, some people or some species decide to genocide other people and other species. So the problem is with people like the elusive man, who would sacrifice everything else in the galaxy to save his own hide. That's the problem. That's the thing that you know, diminishes civilization in the galaxy. So it's not about synthetics and organics, right? It's not about creator and created. It's about how people kind of deal with other people, right? And the catalyst itself rebelled against the Leviathan. Right, you see that? And so it's part of the problem. It is a part of the problem that it's trying to solve, but it's not solvable because it's not, you know, it's not really the problem. But the catalyst itself, it's doing the things that it was designed to stop. So you can see how the catalyst is wrong. Like everything the catalyst is wrong, from its basic programming to the way it's trying to, you know, satisfy the instructions that it's been programmed with. Everything it's doing is wrong. I don't think I should talk about that. I'll just talk to it. I think this stuff we've covered that already.
But you're taking away our future. Without future, we have no hope. Without hope, we might as well be machines, programmed to do what we're told.
That's okay.
You have hope. More than you think. The fact that you are standing here, the first organic ever, proves it. But it also proves my solution won't work anymore.
Right.
So now what?
We find a new solution.
Right.
Why are you telling me this? Why help me?
You have altered the variables.
What do you mean?
The Crucible changed me, created new possibilities, but I can't make them happen. If there is to be a new solution, you must act. It is now in your power to destroy us.
Yeah. See, now it gets really weird.
But be warned, others will be destroyed as well. The Crucible will not discriminate. All synthetics will be targeted. Even you are partly synthetic.
So remember in the previous game, and in the entire 3 games of the series, giving people freedom and choice is the paragon option, right? Dominating and controlling is the renegade option. Remember that? In the second game, we chose to destroy the collector base. That's the paragon option. Legion and the Geth choose not to follow the Reapers, not to accept the Reapers' path, as they call it, to choose their own path. Freedom and choice is the renegade. I mean, this is the paragon option. The opposite is the renegade option. Here, what would grant all the species of the galaxy their own freedom and their free will is to destroy the Reapers, because the Reapers represent indoctrination. The Reapers represent order, which is order is actually the problem, not chaos, right? And the Reapers bring death. So the Reapers are the problem. Even if they don't bring death, they bring order, and they represent control. They're instruments designed to control other things. And the catalyst itself is an instrument designed to bring order by preserving life, which are all kind of just euphemisms for killing them, really. So that's the problem here. Like, the problem is not. So again, like we must kind of keep in mind that we fundamentally disagree with what the catalyst believes. It believes that the problem is life and chaos, when in fact, in our opinion, the problem is order and death. So everything it says is a good idea is in fact what we disagree with. See what's going on? So the catalyst is telling you what it thinks is a good idea, but we disagree with that.
But the Reapers will be destroyed?
Yes, but the peace won't last.
Peace.
Soon, your children will create synthetics, and then the chaos will come back.
Chaos.
There has to be another way.
There is. You could instead use the energy of the Crucible to seize control of the Reapers.
Control. You see how it's back to front?
So the elusive man was right after all.
See how it's back to front? The elusive man was right?
Yes, but he could never have taken control. Because we already controlled him.
Haha, pwned.
But I can.
You will die. You will control us, but you will lose everything you have.
So, according to the catalyst, controlling is better than chaos. But remember that so far, for millions of years, its solution, its method of bringing peace to the galaxy is to kill everything. That's what it thinks is a good idea. Bringing peace by killing everything. That's what the catalyst thinks is a good idea. And now the catalyst thinks it's a good idea for us to control the Reapers, to control it, instead of not controlling it, just kind of destroying the Reapers and letting people choose for themselves. I mean, it says, and he says, we can destroy all the Reapers, and it will also destroy all synthetics, but the peace won't last because they'll create new synthetics and the chaos will return. But there's always chaos, like there always has been chaos, even without synthetics. As I said, the Rachni, although the Rachni were manipulated by the Reapers, but they were the Krogans. There's the conflict between the Turians and the humans, there's a conflict between the Batarians and the Council. None of that involves AI. So even without synthetics, there always is chaos. There always is violence and war. And so it's kind of impossible to guarantee peace. You can try to work towards peace, and I certainly agree with working towards peace and making peace where you can. But the only way to guarantee peace is to kill everything in the galaxy. So what the catalyst thinks is a good idea is in fact the opposite of what we think is a good idea. And it still is. It still thinks that control is better.
But the Reapers will obey me?
Yes. We will be yours to control and direct as you see fit. There is another solution.
And this one is just whack.
Synthesis.
This is just whack.
And that is?
Add your energy to the crucibles. The chain reaction will combine all synthetic and organic life into a new framework. A new DNA.
Remember this. Well, first of all, it talks about this being the apex of evolution, or the pinnacle of evolution, the final form of evolution. First of all, I've already said why this is a problem. Evolution is not about reaching a goal or reaching an end. Evolution is about constantly adapting to changing environments. So, I gave the example of, a penguin. A penguin is successfully evolved itself to live in Antarctica. But if you put a penguin in a desert, it's gonna die. Likewise, if you take a camel and put it in Antarctica, it's gonna die. Right? So you evolve. If evolution is about adapting to a certain situation, and there's no such thing as perfectly evolved, because it always depends on the context, and the context always changes. Context is always different, and so you have, different, like animals evolve differently depending on their context. And so now, and again, I really think that the writers of Mass Effect just don't understand what evolution means. I really think that. Either that or they're deliberately making the catalyst sound like an idiot, because this is not how evolution works. And it's proposing to change all life into cyborgs, into a combination of biological and technological things. And it makes it sound like that this is the best idea. But you see what the problem is? You remember at the end of the first game, what Saren said? Saren, after he was implanted with Reaper technology by Sovereign, after he was thoroughly indoctrinated, Sovereign said that what he had become was the pinnacle of evolution. Saren said that after he was completely indoctrinated. After Saren was completely indoctrinated, he believed that turning him into a half-husk was a good idea. And then the Elusive Man after he was indoctrinated, believed that it was a good idea to implant himself with Reaper technology, turning himself into a cyborg. You see what's going on? Those people were indoctrinated. And see what's going on too. Reapers are in fact a combination of biological and technological things. And everything they've been doing to us, turning us into husks, turning all the species into husks, that involves combining our biology with their technology to create new creatures. See what's going on? This is actually, this is what the Catalyst thinks it's a good idea, and of course it thinks it's a good idea. It's been doing that the entire time to everything. In order for the Catalyst to control life in the galaxy, it implants its technology into them, takes away their ability to think for themselves, and turn them into machines. And now the Catalyst is saying that, hey, the best solution is if you do it for us, if you convert all life in the galaxy into cyborgs for us. See what's going on? In the past, only the indoctrinated people have said that is a good idea. Now the Catalyst says it's a good idea. Of course he does. He controls the indoctrinated people. And now he's trying to convince us that that's a good idea. So, you see what's going on? You see what's going on? Everything is backwards. Everything is backwards. Now it's saying that Saren was right after he was indoctrinated.
I don't know.
Why not? Synthetics are already part of you. Can you imagine your life without them?
Yes.
And there will be peace?
The cycle will end. The Reapers will cease their harvest, and the civilizations preserved in their forms will be connected to all of us. Synthesis is the final evolution of all life.
No, that makes no sense.
The paths are open, but you have to choose.
And look at it. In the past, there's the red there, and then there's the blue there, right? So in the past, red has always been the renegade option, and blue has always been the paragon option. Red has always been the path of control and domination, and and advancing yourself over the others. And then the blue option, the paragon option, has always been, equality and freedom and choice. Now it's back to front. Now they swapped it around. Freedom and choice is the red option, and the control is the blue option. And the Catalyst, this thing that has been controlling these Reapers for millions of years, this thing that we fundamentally disagree with, is telling us what it thinks is a good idea. And it has the ability to indoctrinate. So, now that I think about it, now that I've spent the time to think about it, what I think they were meaning to do is that we are now indoctrinated, or the Catalyst is now trying to indoctrinate us into seeing everything back to front, and that the correct option is actually to destroy the Citadel, and not to do what the Catalyst thinks are the better ideas. And also look at this giant beam of energy there, there's electricity there. Now if you kind of just think about it for a moment, the Catalyst tells you, hey, if you stick your hands in this electricity, you will join your essence with the Catalyst. Now how plausible is that? Like what usually happens when you stick your hands into electricity? What usually happens is you die. You just die, nothing else happens, you die. And there's a giant beam of energy there. what is the most likely outcome of you walking into a giant beam of plasma? The most likely outcome is you die. Not you joining your energy with anything. That makes no sense, right? That's completely fantasy. There's no scientific basis to it. Like if you jump into a fire, you die. You don't join with the fire. So, I mean, if you jump into those things, the most likely the most believable outcome is you just die. You don't actually achieve anything. Like what I think they meant to do is that the catalyst is tricking you into killing yourself. Right? That's what it appears to be, if you really think about it. And if you disbelieve the catalyst, then that's what it looks like. Except that they don't do that. Except that they built the game around the catalyst being right. Not just the story, but the game mechanics. Because remember, we've been collecting war assets this whole time in the third game. And the more war assets you collect, the more options that it unlocks. So if you don't have enough war assets, the only option available to you is to destroy the catalyst. If you collect more war resources or war assets, then the control option opens up to you, and then if you collect even more, then the synthesis option opens up to you. So not just the catalyst, but the game mechanics themselves say that the synthesis option is the best option because you have to do the most work to get it. So in that sense, they're contradicting the hypothesis that, you know, the game is trying to trick you here, or the catalyst is trying to trick you here. And also, if you look at the endings really are, the synthesis is actually the better outcome. Aside from the fact that everyone turns into cyborgs, like the most, you know, constructive outcome is synthesis. But that might also be a lie. That might be a hallucination from the catalyst, right? But the problem here is that the game mechanics support what the catalyst is saying. But what the catalyst is saying contradicts everything that the entire story has told us so far. And that's my problem with the game. Like at the final moment, you know, in the climax, in the ending of the trilogy, it completely contradicts itself. And what I mean, I'm gonna make a guess. I'm completely guessing here, but I'm guessing that somebody who was working on the story had the idea that the catalyst should trick you, or should try to trick you, and thus turn everything back to front. And that it should be trying to indoctrinate us right now, and trying to trick us into doing the opposite of what we're supposed to do, and what we meant to do, or what we want to do. I think that's a good idea too. I think if they ran with that idea, it would be really interesting. Right? Because we're finally here, we've never been indoctrinated before, but we're finally here, we're almost dead, and we finally get indoctrinated. That sounds kind of like an awesome idea. But to make that work, you will have to give the player more clues that you are being indoctrinated, because otherwise, I mean, I fell for this for the first time. I didn't really see I mean, I saw that it was flipped, but I just went with it. Like, even I did that. But I think that would be a good way to go, but I don't think they did it. What it looks like is that they kind of went halfway, and then went back and said, okay, we've done this. We've recorded the dialogue for the catalyst. We've decided that it will say these things, and then, okay, we just make that the ending. And we just believe it, and then we make that true. Instead of sticking with the indoctrination thing and sticking with the idea that it's actually tricking you. So they kind of went halfway, and then they abandoned it and say, okay, we'll just make these the endings. We'll make the synthesis actually the best ending, and destruction actually the worst ending, and then that's it. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe they had this idea the whole time. But I think the problem is that, like, it's not clear, and even after you make the choice, it's not clear. But, you know, everything's back to front, and I agree that people should be unhappy with this because it's kind of wishy-washy. It's kind of like, oh, we'll let the player decide, or we'll let the player interpret and try to figure out what really happened. And I don't think that's strong enough. I don't think that's strong enough. Given how strong the rest of the story is, I think this is weak, and this is like doing things halfway. But I should stop. Okay, I'll stop talking about that. And maybe if you guys want to discuss more, you can kind of write in the comments. What do you think? But right now, you know, after spending some time thinking about it, I really do think that these are actually the wrong options, because it's back to front. Like, this stuff is back to front from the whole rest of the game, from the rest of the story. Like, synthesis, like up to now, all the synthesis stuff is basically the Reapers turning people into husks. And like, we really do fundamentally disagree. Actually, I can shoot him instead. Actually, I want to try this. Let me just try this.
So be it.
See, that happens.
The cycle continues.
No, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. See, you hear "so be it." Like, the way he says that, he's using that evil voice. But then he says the cycle continues. That's wrong. I think that should be the answer. The answer is, in fact, you should kill him, or you should try to kill him. But what they show you is people lose, the Reapers
If
win.
you're hearing this, then there is still hope.
Wow, look, did you hear that?
That you can avoid the same mistakes we made. We fought the Reapers, but we failed to stop them.
No, this is back to front.
We did everything we could. We built the Crucible, but it didn't work. We fought as a united galaxy, but it wasn't enough. I only hope the information in this capsule is enough to help you before it's too late. My name is Dr. Liara Tasuni. Herein lies the recounting of our war with the Reapers.
No, they did it back to front. They did do it back to front. I'm sure of it now. Well, I'm almost sure. No, I'm not entirely sure. But I'm even more convinced now that they did everything back to front. Wait a minute. That's different.
Did that all really happen?
We'll never know exactly what it was like, but yes, the archives tell the true story of those who came before us. They fought a terrible war, so we wouldn't have to.
And that's why we have peace.
Yes, without everything they accomplished, without the information they passed down, we too would be threatened.
What else do we know about the Shepard?
Just what we have in the archives. But I've only told you a few of the stories.
Can you tell me another one, please?
That's different.
It's getting late, but okay. One more story.
No, they did do it back to front. I'm so convinced of this now. Cause the child, or the yeah, cause the catalyst, you know, turned back to that evil voice, turned back to the Reaper voice, and said, "So be it." I think what's supposed to happen is that if you try to control it, or if you try to synthesize, then you die. You just kill yourself, and then the Reapers should win, cause you got indoctrinated and you were tricked into killing yourself, and then the Reapers should win. I think if you actually shoot the catalyst, then the fleet, then your fleet should destroy the Citadel, and that should stop the Reapers, because the Citadel is controlling the Reapers. Or if you shoot if you choose the red ending, then you end up destroying the Reapers, the Citadel, and the Geth and Edie. I think that should have been the ending. They should have given you more hints that you were being indoctrinated, and then the best option is actually to shoot the boy. I think that should have happened. I really do feel like they had a really kind of tricky idea that, you know, in the end you would get indoctrinated, and then the catalyst would try to trick you into doing the opposite of what you should do. but if you do the right thing, then you get the best ending. I think that would have been a better story to tell, because now what they've done is they say, okay, if you do what the catalyst says, even though it was wrong all along, if you do what the catalyst says, then you actually get the best ending. If you do the opposite of what the catalyst says, then you actually get the worst ending. I really do feel like they just kind of, they did it, and then they swapped it around at the end, and then it doesn't make sense anymore. Maybe people weren't happy. I don't know. Maybe they play tested it, and people were kind of not happy with the way that they got tricked. but then if that's the problem, then they should have put in more clues that they were being tricked, instead of just kind of swapping the endings around and then kind of like, I feel like they were on the verge of doing something really clever, and then backed away from it, and in doing so they kind of completely botched it. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm talking about the game developers. They were on the verge of doing something really clever with the story, and then they backed away from it because they were scared, and then they created a really bad ending. They created a really bad story. That's what it feels like to me. I really think it makes a lot more sense if the catalyst was trying to indoctrinate us as it talked to us, and the reverse, reversing the options and pretending that the worst is actually the best, and then the best is actually the worst. That actually seems so clever to me. Alright, so I'm gonna start talking. That's my analysis of the ending of Mass Effect 3. I don't know how long that is. Is that like 2 hours long? Or an hour and a half long? Alright. I'm gonna stop this recording here. So that's technically the end of my Mass Effect 3 playthrough. I might show you some of the multiplayer in upcoming videos. But multiplayer is not very good, but I figure maybe I'll just record some of that just to show you what that's like. Alright, either that or I'll play another game, so whatever the case, I'll see you guys in other videos. Thanks for watching, guys.